Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Rachel.
And this is the Rip Diaries, a podcast where we rip apart episode by episode the Vampire Diaries. Warning, this is a rewatch podcast, so we always bring up spoilers.
Yeah, lots to talk about in this episode. This week we're talking season 3, episode 15, All My Children. Mm-hmm. Obviously big Esther Originals episode.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
If last episode didn't cement that the originals are like amazing characters,
back in full force,
and deserving of their own show, this one does.
I think so
it's
too.
just so obvious after just a couple episodes of originals like plot that they're just so iconic. Like, they're just so deserving of their whole own story because they clearly have so much to work with there. So going right into this one, of course, we start out at the Gilbert house. You know, if you don't have like a pickup from the last episode, then it's a next morning somebody's waking up in bed after what's just happened.
Yes.
And this is one of those.
About everything.
Yep. And this is exactly one of those. Elena's laying in bed, like clearly like restless, contemplating everything like that just happened last night at the Michelson ball. And she picks up her phone thinking, obviously deciding if she should call somebody.
And who she should call first.
And then we see who she chose. Stefan is in his room writing in his diary when his phone starts to ring.
And also, I have to say, his page, like written in his diary, I paused it. It says, like, it obviously like picks up in the middle of a sentence, but it says, wallow in self-loathing. Better to close it off. Bury it.
That's the most Stefan thing he could have written.
I know.
He's fully back emotionally inside.
Yep.
Yes. The OG Stefan, but he's still externally not attempting to be that Stefan.
No.
Which is a funny way to live. That's great. He sees, and going along with that of like wallow in self-pity and don't allow myself to have anything good, he sees his phone ring and that Elena is calling him, and instead of answering it, he cancels the call, ignoring her.
Yep.
And so we go back to Elena and like see her leaving a message for him saying, I really have to talk to you, please call me back, and she hangs up. Then she decides to dial the phone again, going to, of course, who else would she call? Damon, who's still in bed with Rebekah next to him. And he rolls over to answer the phone and is just like, what? The usual. He never says hello.
Never.
But Elena's being very earnest and like serious in this call, and she says, I called you 10 times last night. We need to talk. Obviously, she like really offended him at the dance the night before.
Yeah.
They actually need like a real like heart to heart. But Damon is not wanting to talk about it and says like, sorry, I've been busy. And Elena says, if you're mad at me, Damon, you need to get over it. Which I was like, why did she call him to like talk and clearly have a heart to heart if she was just like, get over it? Clearly she knows she offended him.
Yeah.
But I think she's just annoyed with how he's just like, he won't even talk about it.
Yeah.
So she's like, I can play those games too. But anyway, Damon claims, oh, I'm over it. And he hangs up the phone and lays back down in bed, just like kind of looking at Rebekah, who's sleeping next to him.
Yep.
You know, this scene was dramatic from the start because the Civil Wars are playing in the background. So you're like, we're already getting the romantic, the denied romance vibes.
Yep.
Like, it really sets the tone for what that whole sequence is between all three of them.
Yeah. Also, the lyrics are like, I don't love you, but I always will. I was like, this dynamic is fully back.
Yep. Oh, yeah. We're fully in the, like, not throuple, love triangle.
The love triangle
era for sure. Like mid-season 3 is like prime love triangle like competition time.
Yeah, no. I'm living for it. But anyway, we see Damon and Rebekah finally get out of bed.
Finally.
They're walking toward the door. Rebekah's in her dress from last night.
Yeah, it's all torn to shreds.
I was going to say, she must have like stitched it back on. I don't know. And Damon is, of course, shirtless.
Yeah, of course.
And they're going to the door, and Rebekah's like, let's not make a big deal out of this. And Damon agrees.
Yeah,
like, my thoughts exactly.
Yeah.
And then Rebekah gives a little line like, besides, I expect you'll come calling soon enough.
Of course.
Of course. And Damon, is like, let's not hold our breath. And then he opens the door, and Elena is standing outside, and she obviously is like, shocked to see Rebekah there.
Of course.
Clearly the implication, like she's in the dress from last night. Like,
it's so obvious. He's shirtless.
Early.
Yeah,
he's
so
shirtless.
obvious what just happened.
For Damon, shirtless doesn't mean much.
That's true.
He's shirtless every other scene, but
that's true.
Yeah. But obviously. And she's surprised, and Rebekah just like kind of smirks and leaves. Like she's loving this.
Yes.
And then cut to, we see a few minutes later, Damon has gotten a shirt that he's putting on, and they're inside the house. And Elena asks Damon, like, did you stop taking your vervain? Like,
he's so funny for that.
I was like, oh, I love her. And Damon is like, you think Rebekah had to compel me? Like, clearly no.
Damon, who flirts with any living, breathing person ever.
Obviously not. But Elena is like, what's wrong with you? And points out, like, she tried to kill her less than 48 hours ago.
Yeah.
And Damon is like, can't we just move past that?
Yeah.
And Elena's like, so this is how it's going to be now. I hurt your feelings, and then you lash out at me. And Damon is like pouring himself a drink at this point and says, well, maybe for once something I did had nothing to do with you. And then he like cheers to her and drinks.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. Yeah, this had nothing to do with her.
I was going to say, he's crazy for that because this obviously had everything to do with her. Getting her out of his system, lashing out at her, as she says. Which also, I think it's really interesting that she calls this lashing out at him. Like, he's not allowed to sleep with people? That's interesting, Elena.
No, I know. I was thinking this whole episode, I was like, Stefan is kind of wild for still trying, because I feel like it's so clear she's jealous about this. Like,
yeah,
she's just so clearly into Damon at this point that it's like,
it is kind of crazy to be like, the vibes are developed not only on Damon's side but Elena's, and to still be like, I'm gonna like shoot my shot. I might as well get back in there. Yeah. Although I think Stefan's also putting out a lot of the vibes where it's like neither of us should be, as he says multiple times. So
yeah, that is true. Stefan is definitely like of that opinion. Yeah. For sure. But anyway, Elena kind of diffuses the tension or whatever and is like, by the way, Esther's planning on killing her whole family tonight. She's linked them all together with a spell, so whatever happens to one of them will happen to all of them. And David is like, that's amazing. Klaus will finally be dead. We win. And then Elena like makes a face where she's visibly, like, we know from last episode, like, she's not happy about this.
Yeah.
And he asks, like, why she looks like someone just shot a panda bear.
Yeah.
And Elena is like, because to kill Klaus means to kill all of them, including Elijah, who doesn't deserve this, which is kind of crazy because he's only ever betrayed them. But I mean,
yeah, but I think the thing is she understands why and when he betrays them. It's for family. Definitely. Yeah. And so that's the thing is she does see Elijah as this moral person who's, I would actually say, very, very similar to Elena.
That's true.
And so... yeah, they'll both do bad things in the name of the people they love, as Elijah says at the end of this episode, actually. Yeah. But yeah, she doesn't say that about the others for some reason.
I know.
They're just bad people.
And like they've all had, like, Rebekah really hasn't done anything that bad.
No.
But anyway.
Only revenge because Elena did bad things to her.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah. And Damon is like, and I should care about Elijah. Why? And Elena throws it back at him and is like, well, shouldn't you at least care about Rebekah?
She thought she ate so hard at that.
I know, she really does. She really did.
Yeah.
And Damon is like, 2 seconds ago, you were pissed that she attacked you. It's a win-win. Like, what do you mean? And Elena just, like, goes to leave. And Damon, like, kind of vamp speeds in front of her to cut her off and tells her not to do anything to screw this up. We all know Elena loves to come up with her own plan, ruin the one that's ongoing. And, like, he already knows. And Elena asks him why he's doing this, like why he's trying to stop her and just let this happen. When Stefan walks in and is like, he's right, you know, like Klaus has to die. Yeah. They all do. And Damon says a little jokey, like, it's democracy in action.
Yeah.
And Elena just leaves and bumps into Damon, like, on her way out.
Yeah, spilling his drink a little bit. Very intentional, like this.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Elena's not happy with the brothers, but they're happy with how everything else is going down. They basically got exactly what they wanted, the weapon to kill Klaus, and it's doing it itself. So, hands off for them at this point.
So they think.
Because of course somebody else is very aware of what's going on and not happy about it.
Yes.
At the Michelson house, we see Elijah is looking through the study and he finds the burnt sage that Esther had used the night before for her like secret combo spell. Yeah. And you know, we also see like in another spot of the house downstairs, Rebekah is finally getting home in her like ripped up gown where Cole and Klaus are just like hanging out. Klaus is sitting sketching.
I love him.
He's just like the relaxed artist on the couch drawing his little pictures. We finally get to see when he has no problems or enemies. He's just like hanging out with his family. He's just drawing away. I was like, this is
so real. real.
I love this for him. Cole, of course, though, is a restless person, does not like the sitting around just hanging out. He loves the drama. He loves problems. So when he sees Rebekah coming in the night before dress, yeah, it's like, of course, this is my opportunity. And he says, well, there's our girl. And he stands up and blocks her way so she can't leave the room. And she tells him, like, get out of my way. But he keeps going, out all night. What a scandal. I trust you did better than that commoner. Matt, was it? So funny that he hates Matt immediately for no reason. Other than just, like, being human.
He's real. No, Cole is so real.
Yeah, he clocks the head immediately.
Yeah.
He was like, lame.
Loser.
Yeah. But Rebekah's like getting mad at him now, and she's like, if you don't shut your mouth, the next thing that comes out of it will be your teeth. And Klaus is kind of like smirking in the background, enjoying all of this. This is like his favorite pastime.
Yep.
And Rebekah's like, don't start, Nick. And he's like, I didn't say anything. But clearly, obviously, he's giving the vibes that he's enjoying this. And so Cole jumps in and says, I'm bored. Our sister is a strumpet. It's so funny. I'm going to start calling my sister a strumpet just to see what she says.
It's good.
But at least she's having fun. I need entertainment, he says. And Klaus, ever the older brother, is like, what are you waiting for? Go on. Have at it. Go find your fun. But Cole complains, it's not fun to go alone. Join me, Nick. It's the least you can do after sticking a dagger in my heart. I love that he's played the dagger card like 10 times.
He's like a day. He's like, I will be milking this.
Yeah, he will be milking it for decades.
Oh, yeah.
And this conversation generally is just so real. The amount of times to my siblings that have been like, please, like, I'm so bored. Like, I need you to entertain me. It's so real. And of course, as happens in real life, the older sibling gives in. Klaus says, okay, why not? I didn't have nearly enough to drink last night. What with you trying to murder Rebekah's date? Yep. And Rebekah says, yes, please go. This house has enough men rolling around in it. And Cole hits her with the, just like you, Becca. So good. I know. He's so witty.
This line, it's maybe a little bit too far, but he's so witty. I love him so much. And I just love their sibling dynamic.
Oh,
it feels so authentic.
Yeah.
Like, two being siblings.
Yeah, because it is, like, too far as a joke generally. But from a sibling, it is perfect.
It's a fair game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just far enough. There's no line that can't be crossed in a sibling, making fun of.
I love that.
But anyway, Rebekah, of course, it is too far for her, so she throws her shoe at Cole and yells at them, good riddance. Yep. And Klaus and Cole, like, run out.
Yep.
And then, of course, it leaves Rebekah in the room alone for Elijah to come in, and he's still holding the burnt sage, and, like, you know, he's really definitely, like, thinking about it. He looks thoughtful and serious, as Elijah usually does.
Yes.
And Elijah says Rebekah's name is sort of like a greeting, and she thinks he's, like, joining in on, you know, the drama or whatever, and she's like, not you too, Elijah. But he's, like, is serious, and he tells her, I'm worried about Mother. Have you seen that she's been, like, burning the sage? And she's like, she fancies these things. Like, her, like, she's not weird, whatever. Like, she also says she's been dead 1,000 years. What's strange for her?
Who knows? Yeah, wouldn't you be a little weird too?
Yeah, that's why Finn's weird too. He's been in a box for 900 years.
That's true. That's a good point.
But anyway, he, like, again shows her the sage and, like, says that it's for a privacy spell. And Rebekah's kind of getting annoyed at this point, saying, like, again, she fancies these things. Go ask Finn. He's been doting on her. But Elijah says, I don't trust Finn. He hates what we are. He always has. And Rebekah says that's not true. And as far as our mother, she just has returned for one reason, to make our family whole. She loves us. What trouble are you even looking for? And the scene ends with, like, a close-up of Elijah's face, definitely, like, serious again, like, thinking, being like,
he's going to get to the bottom of this.
Like, and I my interpretation of his face is that he's definitely not buying what she's saying. Of, like, no. Come on, like, she just wants to unify us. Like, it's nothing serious. Because I think it's pretty obvious to him that it is something serious.
Yeah, so definitely. Yeah, Elijah will keep investigating that throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Also trying to figure something out.
Especially about the sage.
Yeah, especially related to the sage. We have the girls. They're sitting on a bed. I think it's
Caroline's.
Okay, I was gonna say it's Caroline's, right? Yeah. I was for a moment.
They shoot it from, like, a weird angle too.
Yeah, the angle also makes it look sort of like Elena's with the bathroom off to the side, but I think it's just, like, the hallway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did get excited when we were first watching. I thought it might be Bonnie's room.
Yeah, I know. I thought that too. I was like, Bonnie's room finally dropped, but no, it's just a weird angle of Caroline's room.
Yeah. But Bonnie and Elena are sitting on Caroline's bed, and Bonnie has her grimoire out and like a little tray with candles on it and a bowl that she's burning sage in, while Elena is talking to her about Damon, saying, obviously in the middle of the Rebekah story, saying he was gloating, like he was proud of sleeping with her. And then she says, "Is it working?" And Caroline comes in from the hallway and is like, "It's not working. I can hear every word you're saying about Damon the vampire gigolo."
That's one of my favorite quotes from Vampire Diaries ever. I think about that one all the time. Damon the vampire gigolo.
I know.
Is the funniest thing Caroline's ever said.
It really is. I kind of wish they'd brought it back.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because it's the perfect nickname for him. Like, he is the person who usually nicknames people, doesn't really get a nickname. But the vampire gigolo as his nickname is really funny.
Good. No, I love the vampire gigolo. Oh, and Caroline steps into the room. She looks beautiful. Yeah. I was like, she looks so good. I don't know.
I thought that too. Her hair looks amazing. Like, she just got a fresh blowout or something.
Yeah.
And I thought that the whole episode, because obviously, like, later with Klaus, it plays in that she looks so good. Yeah. But yeah, she looks good in this scene too.
Yeah, she looks beautiful. She's glowing after last night.
She really is. Good night, all things considered.
Definitely. And Bonnie's like saying, I don't know, it's a tricky spell. And Elena tries to tell her when Esther did it, the sage kept burning and there was more smoke. Like, obviously something's not quite right. Also, I love that Elena was like, "Bonnie, you gotta try this."
Yes, it's so funny. This is girlhood right here. Being really like, we have to figure out how we can talk privately.
Yes. Yes. No, it really is. I love them.
Yeah.
And Bonnie like relights the sage to keep going. And Caroline kind of gives a look and then goes back out into the hallway. And Bonnie is like, "Speaking of Esther, you should know that she came to see me and Abby this morning." And Elena is like, "And all this time you've let me just vent about Damon. What did Abby want? Or what did Esther want?" And Bonnie tells Elena that Esther wanted to introduce herself since she and Abby helped bring her back. And Bonnie also reveals that Esther is channeling the entire Bennett ancestral bloodline for power.
Yeah.
And Elena asks if there's a way to stop Esther from channeling her. And Bonnie is like, "Even if there were, why would I want that?"
Yeah.
And Elena just says, like, "I just keep thinking, before the sun and the moon curse, Elijah found a way to keep me alive. And now I'm in the same position and I'm just going to let him die."
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And at this point, Caroline comes back in and is like, "First of all, this is not working. I can hear everything you're saying. Second, Elena, you're not doing this. Esther is doing this." Mm-hmm. And Bonnie also says, like, "And even if I could stop it, there's no time, like, to change her mind because Klaus will be dead by the end of the night." Mm-hmm. And Elena is like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And Bonnie says, "It's a full moon. Esther needs to harness the energy of a celestial event, of course. She asked me and Abby to join her."
Yeah.
So it's on.
It's on.
Tonight.
And Elena's just like looks shocked. Like very. Yeah. It's interesting that Elena's the only person that's against this. Everyone else is like, "Let's go for it."
Yeah.
And I see why everyone feels that way, and I see why Elena doesn't. And I think Elena easily could, but I'm really glad that they gave her this plot of being like, Elijah at least doesn't deserve to die, because a lot of times Elena is held as this like moral good person who's very compassionate. We're told all the time how compassionate she is, and we've talked about like a couple moments where it's like, for this really compassionate person, that was not a compassionate thing to do. We talk about it a lot with like how she treats Catherine, how she treats Rebekah. Like, Elena does have a lot of these moments of actually not seeming like a very caring person. So to inject specifically a storyline about how much Elena actually does care, and is compassionate for like life being lost without any reason, I think this was like an important choice to reinforce that of Elena.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think it does well, especially because no one else seems to care at all. It's interesting. It's nice to have her kind of stand out in that way. Yeah.
And I think like Stefan is probably the only other person that would have, but obviously he's just not at that point emotionally that he can. And he's so much hatred for Klaus specifically that he's like, who cares?
Who cares? This whole town could burn and it would be fine. Yeah.
So it's an interesting like place to put her in specifically, especially as our like main character for all intents and purposes. Like, I don't know, it's interesting to highlight her in that different way.
Yeah.
But it will get more interesting as like later stuff that happens and how that all goes down. Yeah. But of course, got to check back in on the boys at the Salvatore house. Of course. Damon enters with a glass in each hand. He's got 2 glasses. And he asks Stefan to join him for a little victory drink. And Stefan says that they should wait until Klaus is actually dead. Yeah. Obviously.
He jinxed it right there.
But Damon asks, like, why are you so extra broody? And they're very back in brother unity mode, I feel, at this point. You know, like Damon even asking him this. Because Damon then says, did you see the way we stood up to Elena? I like you on my team. Must have driven her nuts. Like, he's getting so much joy out of this.
I love him.
And it reminds me of, like, the stuff, the, like, last couple episodes. How, like, he keeps having these little moments of, like, intentionally trying to choose Stefan over Elena. To show like this unity with him. Yeah. Like I feel like it's a conscious decision that Damon's making at this point.
I think so too. I think we have more to say on that probably at the end.
Yeah, it definitely comes up again. But it's like already you're starting to see that, which I think is really interesting. And Stefan asks, you still think she's going to screw this up, don't you? And Damon says, I think somebody needs to talk to her. She's not going to listen to anything I say. Yeah. And Stefan questions, is it because of your little sleepover? But Damon says, it's not my fault she decided to get jealous. And Stefan says, well, given who you chose to sleep with, I would say it's 100% your fault. Yeah. It's really crazy to me that they're talking about Elena in regards to all of this in this way. Like, it's so obvious, like kind of what you were talking about earlier. Like, it's so obvious that Stefan's aware of the fact that Elena's interested in him in this way because, like...
Yeah, and jealous about him sleeping with Rebekah.
Yeah, that's, like, the only... I mean, I guess she tried to kill her, so, like, I don't know.
She could be mad in that way, I guess. But, yeah.
So, yeah, it's just interesting that they're acknowledging this. But anyway, Damon, like, brushes it off, saying, whatever, I did you a favor. Now you can come in and sweep her off her feet. Mm-hmm. So interesting how he does these sort of self-implosion things. Like, to me, this line almost reveals his insecurity of being, like, and this comes up later, too, that, like, he's aware that at this point, Elena could choose Stefan over him. And, like, that would devastate him. So... as usual, why not just self-implode and, like, give her no reason or no choice but to choose Stefan as, like, the better person. Yeah. But Stefan's not playing that game. He crosses his arms and says, she's better off without me. Sure as hell better off without you. And Damon says, fine, neither one of us gets her. Just make sure she doesn't screw up Esther's plan. And Damon leaves, but he leaves a glass of blood for Stefan, like, on the little table there. And Stefan looks at it for a minute, but then turns away without touching it. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of our girl Elena, she's back at her house. There's a knock at the door, and Elena comes down the stairs and opens the door, and Elijah is there. And they greet each other, and he says, I don't mean to intrude, but I was hoping you might accompany me. I want to show you something.
Yeah. She has the biggest forced smile, too. It's like, I'm happy to see you, but also I've been actively lying to you for, like, the last 24 hours, and I don't want to continue doing it.
Exactly. She's also like, I'm going to spend his last day with him. Like,
yeah, that's true.
At this point, she's like, he's going to die.
Yeah. But, of course, Elijah's smarter than that.
Yeah. Elijah has another plan. He knows everything at this point. Yeah. And we see, like, a little bit later, cut to, Elijah pulls up to just, like, the woods.
Somewhere in the woods. Yeah.
In his car, and he and Elena get out and walk around. And Elijah starts talking about how much he missed this land. Mm-hmm. And Elena says, you know, she can't imagine what it would have been like 1,000 years ago. And Elijah tells her that Mystic Falls High was built over like an Indian village. And
of course it was. Also.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah, exactly. And he says, you know, it was where I saw my first werewolf, and the town square was where all the natives would gather to worship. And there was a field where wild horses used to graze, like really painting a different picture of like this area. Because in the show, it's just like some trees, dirt. It's not really anything crazy.
And town square, you know, it's like modern, whatever.
Yeah. And then Elijah sort of tells her to like come along, and you know they keep walking a little ways, and then Elena asks Elijah if she knows or if he knows this place too, which it's just like a rock, but sure. And Elijah says, I do. Below us is a cavern I used to play in as a boy, and there's a tunnel system that it connects to that stretches across the entire area. And he says, maybe it was nature's way of providing them with shelter against the werewolves during the full moon, because Mother always says there must be a balance. And Elena is like, okay, I should probably go home.
Because also it's so weird. He's like bending down and he's like kind of like touching the straw or whatever that's on the ground.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's just like kind of like, it's just like a weird, like something's going on.
Yeah.
Like
the way he's like telling all of this too.
Yeah.
It's like, he wasn't just showing me.
Yeah, he took me out into the woods to tell me about, like, it's odd. It's odd. She's like, I should go home.
Yeah, she definitely knows something's up. And yeah, she says she should go home. And Elijah's like, I admire you, Elena. You remind me of qualities I valued in myself long before my mother turned us. It's not in your nature to be deceitful. And yet, when I asked you about meeting with my mother the other night, you lied to my face.
I love him.
The delivery of this line, I was like actively smiling, just looking at TV.
I love an Elijah scene, and this is a great one.
It was so good. And Elena tries to say, that's not true.
Yeah.
All I said.
She starts lying again.
Yeah, she's basically lying again, but she kind of tries to, do like the lie of omission thing. She's like, all I said was that Esther wants a new start. And Elijah tells her, I can hear your heartbeat. It jumps when you're being dishonest with me. You lied to me at the ball. You're lying to me now. Tell me the truth. And Elena kind of pauses for a minute and she just starts to say, I never wanted this to happen. Obviously, she's going to come clean. And Elijah asks what she means. And she explains, we were told what was in that coffin was going to kill Klaus. When we found out it was your mother, we didn't know what to think. And Elijah says, since she's been back, she says she just wants the family to be reunited and whole again. And Elena goes on to say, when she asked to see me, I thought maybe she could help to kill Klaus. But it's not just Klaus that she wants to kill. And Elijah realizes she wants to kill all of us, doesn't she? She wants to undo the evil she created. And Elena just confirms it by just saying, I'm so sorry, Elijah. I wish there was something I could do to help. And Elijah says, one thing I've learned in all my time on this earth, be careful what you wish for. And then he stomps one foot, breaks a huge hole into the earth, grabs Elena, just like, kind of vamp jumps her down into the hole. And obviously leaves her there, because then we get another quick little scene.
Like after commercial break.
And then she's like just alone in there trying to hold up her phone. You can hear the no signal tone.
Yeah, clearly lost. and alone. Clearly Elijah's up to something.
So she's just down there for now, but also him stomping a hole just in the ground.
He's so powerful.
No, I know. I was like, how strong is he? Like, I feel like that is an unseen level of strength.
It definitely is huge. And he obviously, like, I'd have to assume when he was kind of, like, at ground level was trying to test, like, where's the weakest spot. Because obviously, like, as we see, she's in this huge, like, cave thing under the ground. So it probably was, like, a spot where the earth was, like, pretty weak. Like, you couldn't build a building on or something. But, yeah, still. Crazy strength to just be like, I can stomp and break a hole in the earth. But anyway.
Real quick, I also have to say, because we never get to shout out a guy outfit.
Oh.
I really loved Elijah's all black. He's wearing like a black suit, black shirt, black tie. And it was also really well done. There's like little subtle stripes on the shirt. The tie is like a satin. The black of the suit is like a really deep black. I just thought it looked good. Like he knew he was going to have to be villainous today.
And he dressed for it.
And he dressed for it.
He probably did, actually, knowing Elijah.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, I love every Elijah outfit ever. I usually don't shout them out because they're just like, suits.
They're usually suits, yeah. But this was a little different.
Yeah, that's nice. I do love an Elijah outfit.
Love him.
But people noticing Elena's kind of MIA, a little weird. At the Salvatore house, Damon is on the phone with Alaric, who says he hasn't seen Elena since this morning. And Damon says, like, she's not answering her phone. And Alaric's like, well, I'm surprised you have time to call. What with all the original sex you've been having? And Damon is surprised. He's like, she told you? And Alaric's like, oh, she told me.
The whole town knows at this point.
I was going to say, I am obsessed with Elena going around and telling everyone she's ever met. Did you hear Damon had sex with Rebekah last night? Literally.
No, truly.
I don't even know how you can get past this of being like, this speaks volumes that she's so upset with him just sleeping with someone.
That's what I was going to say. If I was Stefan and I knew that she like complained about this, or not like complained per se, but you know what I mean? Yeah, to every single person, it's like, it's over, Stefan.
Yeah.
It's over.
And I think the thing is too, she can hide behind the whole like, well, it's just because it's Rebekah and she tried to kill me. But it's also like, I don't know. That feels also pretty... I don't know. It feels like a weak excuse to have to tell everyone about it. But yeah, definitely certified Elena is a yapper at least. So that's what we're getting out of this.
True.
She had to tell everyone.
But there's never any doubt in my mind.
No, there never was. But now it's like, it's been a few hours and somehow every single person knows that Damon slept with Rebekah.
Yep.
So, whatever. But anyway, Damon says... Like, did she tell you that she's having an attack of conscience about this whole original murder thing? And Alaric's like, hey, I'm not going to judge her for having a conscience. I can never say that word. And Damon tells him, well, you don't have to judge her. Just tie her up, lock her in her room, wait till this is all over. And Alaric's like, well, I wouldn't if I could. And I can't because I'm busy. And Damon asks what he's busy with. And Alaric tells him, like, not to worry about it. Just keep doing what he's doing. And Damon correctly guesses, are you with the sexy psycho doctor? And Alaric just says, goodbye, Damon, and hangs up the phone. And we see Damon is like in the house and he sees the glass of blood that he had left earlier for Stefan and obviously noticed that it's completely untouched. So clearly Damon had a theory about Stefan and was running a little test.
Definitely.
And clearly got the answer he suspected he would, which is, you know, as you're assuming at this point, Stefan's not drinking blood anymore. Yeah. So, interesting thing to find out about Stefan in this episode.
Yeah, Damon knows him so well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he got the tells.
Yeah. But we pick up with Alaric's plot line after the phone call, and we see, you know, he and Meredith are at the grill. They're sitting at the bar, and Alaric, you know, says sorry, I guess, for taking the call. Yeah. And Meredith asks if Damon still thinks that she's a serial killer. And Alaric says he's a little judgmental, of course. And Meredith is like, speaking of, which I guess speaking of the serial killer, but your x-rays were inconclusive. The knife wound was already like almost healed. Yeah. So we can't really tell anything about who stabbed you, like what hand they used, short, tall, like nothing. And Alaric is like, well, what about my head? Why can't I remember anything about the attack? And Meredith tells him the scans were clear. Yeah. So she kind of suggests, she was like, maybe it was a vampire compelling you. And he was like, wait, you think the killer is a vampire? Mm-hmm. And Meredith says, there are no other suspects. It's the obvious conclusion. And at this point, Klaus and Cole come into the bar and they walk right up to them. And Klaus is like, oh, come on now. Let's not go blaming the new family in town just because you lot have got yourselves a killer again at large. And don't mind us. My brother and I are just here to let off some steam. Right, Cole? And Cole's like, right. But he's clearly like looking at Meredith in an interested way.
Yeah, he's eyeing her up.
Definitely.
And she's definitely like
uncomfortable. Yeah, she's like not. Mm-mm.
And Alaric kind of notices like the interest between like that he's like looking at her. So it's definitely he's kind of setting that up.
Alaric was like, I can exploit this later.
Yes, he definitely did think that. But speaking about exploitation,
oh yeah, true.
At the old witch house, of course, Abby and Bonnie are walking up to the mansion, and Esther and Finn are walking out of the entrance. And Abby asks, "Who's the creepy lurky guy?" And Bonnie says that's Esther's son Finn. He's a vampire. So, and she points to her ears, obviously like an indicator. Don't talk about him. He can currently hear you. Yeah. Which I just think it's so funny that Finn is consistently clocked as being like this bore, this weirdo, creepy lurky guy. Like everyone immediately sees him and is like, who's that?
Bad vibes. Yeah.
And I love that he also definitely heard Abby say
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
He's just like, this is my life.
Yep.
But anyway, then Abby and Bonnie like mention Grams and talk about how she's probably not very happy that they're involved in this vampire business. Also, I have to say, I think we've confirmed that Grams is Abby's mom. Like I've done some research and stuff. Our people in our comments, apparently that is supposed to be what it is. I think Wilson is her father's last name. Yeah. That's why she's Bennett Wilson from her mom and her dad.
Okay, I see.
But then for some reason they only passed Bennett exclusively to Bonnie.
Yeah.
And she didn't get Hopkins from her dad. I don't know.
It
doesn't make any sense.
I know. I was thinking about it in this scene and some of these other ones. I was like, definitely Sheila was Abby's mom.
Yes.
But the last name stuff makes no sense.
Yeah, because I have to assume Wilson, I mean, maybe she was married to somebody else, but she would have Hopkins from being married to Bonnie's dad. So I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah.
The last names don't make sense, but at least wanted to close the loop on
that
while they were talking about Graham's. And so they get up to Esther, and she greets them and thanks them for coming. And she says, I can think of no better allies than the women who sent Michael into his long sleep and the girl who fought Niklaus so bravely. Confirmed that Esther is a little anti-Michael.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny.
Good.
Yeah, put him in the ground, sister. And Abby asks, why exactly did you invite us here? And Esther says, you're descendants of the witch Ayanna. She was a great mentor of mine, and I think it's only fitting that I draw from her bloodline. And Bonnie asks, so you're channeling our ancestors? And Esther answers, I draw from the entirety of the Bennett bloodline, living and dead. The connection affords me great power, although it's somewhat difficult to maintain, which is why I require you, mother and daughter, the bloodline made manifest. Tonight, my sisters, we shall bring peace to the spirits of nature that we serve, and for that I thank you. She loves a speech. Usually I paraphrase what this woman says because she just goes on and on.
She loves a speech. But I love Esther.
I love Esther. She's so funny. And I love the witch vibes.
Yeah.
But she drops a lot of important info in that there, obviously,
yes.
of like how this is all working. That in order for her to have all this power, and she says it's really difficult to do, she needs both of them.
Yeah.
She needs a mother and a daughter to be able to connect to this like bloodline. So that's where she's getting all of her power from, and it's very hinged on both of them.
Yeah.
Important to understand is like what happens in this plot happens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that will all come back around. But for now, we see Elena is down in the underground tunnel system trying to find a way out. And she kind of like goes off in a certain direction when Rebekah appears in front of her face, keeping her from going that way, and says, going somewhere? And Elena asks Rebekah what she's doing there. And Rebekah is she's
so chill when she just got like kidnapped and dropped in the woods and Rebekah shows up. She's just like,
what are you doing?
Yeah. What?
Yeah. And Rebekah's like, not much unless you try to run, in which case I get to kill you.
Yeah.
So Rebekah's on Elena babysitting duty.
Yeah, clearly plan in motion from the Michelson siblings here.
Yep.
As we see in the next scene.
Yeah, as we see. At this point, they've been looking for Elena all morning. Stefan kind of bursts into the Salvatore house and is like, I can't find her. She's gone. And he walks into the living room and he sees Elijah is sitting by the fireplace. And Damon is also in the room. And he says, Elijah has Elena.
Yeah.
And Elijah's like, actually, she's with Rebekah. And as you can imagine, my sister is dying to tear her throat out. So if you want to save her life, I need you to help me stop my mother. And Damon, of course, is like, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but when it comes to killing 1,000-year-old resurrected witches, I'm a little rusty. And Elijah's like, yeah, unfortunately, even when Esther is killed, she doesn't stay dead, not with the spirits of nature at her side. And Stefan is like, so what are we supposed to do then? And Elijah explains, like, the witches that released my mother are where Esther is drawing her power from. That bloodline, obviously the Bennett bloodline, like we just heard. And that needs to be broken. And Stefan is like, broken? And Damon is like, yeah, he means... And then he makes like the
finger cut.
Yeah, the finger across the throat. Like, obviously, like, they need to die.
Yeah.
And Stefan says as much. He says, like, you want us to kill Bonnie and Abby. And Elijah says, I do it myself, but I have absolutely no idea where they are. Besides, seeing me, they'd immediately know my intent. They won't expect to be harmed by the likes of you. In any case, you have until 6 minutes after 9 to find them. And they're like, wait, that's so specific. Yeah. What? And Elijah explains, by 9:07, the moon will be full. Esther will have all of her power that she needs to kill him and his family. And if you don't stop her before then, Rebekah will kill Elena. Mm-hmm. So we all have our timeline. Let's go get started. Then he just leaves, kind of bumping into Stefan on his way out, too.
Yeah. Interesting. Stuff's going down. I love this Elijah scene too.
Same.
Like, the way he delivers stuff of like, I'm sure Rebekah's dying to tear her throat out. Like, he's so blasé about the whole situation. Yeah. It's like you said, like he woke up this morning and was like, time to be the villain.
Yeah, he just knew. He was like, this is who I have to be. Yeah.
But yeah, he obviously has completely realized his mother is trying to kill all of them and was like, get me Damon Salvatore. Get me Stefan Salvatore. Like, these men will solve my problems.
I get what he's saying about, you know, if Elijah came coming, they'd be like, obviously it's over.
Yeah.
But I just love this idea of like, he was literally like, I have to get Damon and Stefan.
Don't like compel any other rando to go in there.
To just go, stab
Also,
Abby.
even if he shows up and they know that's what's going to happen, they can't, how are they going to stop him? Yeah. Which is what ends up happening when they show up. It's still like a disturbance. Like, it still kind of stops it from happening. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But anyway, we're going to go with that plan for a while. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they're supposed to go with that plan.
Yep.
But of course, Elena's been captured. She is with Rebekah, and Rebekah is recording Elena on her phone. Some of the craziest product placement in the show, which is full of crazy product placement, but this episode especially, I was like, it's natural, but also not at all.
It's so ridiculous. Like, I guess at least they kind of bring it around at the end.
Yes, it does have like a purpose overall, but it's just weird. It's like Rebekah's just gonna record Elena.
It's so weird.
And Rebekah tells Elena that she's shooting a picture to inspire your boyfriends. Not a picture. She just came out of her 1920s box from seeing a picture. An old Chaplin.
Her 1920s is showing.
Exactly. Yeah. And Rebekah tells Elena, you know, she's like taunting her, and Elena even starts like goading Rebekah about this being because she stabbed her in the back.
Yeah.
Elena, we always say it. Elena's not afraid to run up on anybody, but sometimes, Elena, it's not necessary. This was one of those times when maybe just like sit down and shut up and it would have played better.
Yeah, relax.
But anyway, she's like goading her a little bit. And Rebekah says, you know, I don't know what I want more, to find out we're saved or to find out it's all right to kill you. And Elena says, this isn't my fault. As if that's going to help anything.
Oh, no.
She says, I wanted to get rid of Klaus, and at one point, so did you. I didn't know that your mom was planning on killing all of you, which, you know, in Elena's mind is fair of like, yeah, Elena doesn't want all of them to die, like, blah, blah, blah. But also, like, that does not even matter in this case. You're a hostage girl. You think you're going to talk Rebekah out of, like, torturing you and just letting you go?
Yeah, one, it's Rebekah. Two, didn't you already have the realization a few, like, episodes ago that you would do all of this stuff for Jeremy? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, obviously, I mean, now Rebekah's own life is at stake, but even if it was just Klaus, like,
Rebekah
you're not reasoning with her.
No,
like,
and obviously it doesn't work. Rebekah gets really pissed and starts like ranting about how like, do you think I want to be spending my last few hours with someone who literally stabbed me in the back? Of course not. But for some reason, everybody can't seem to stop bending over backwards to save your life, which is incredibly annoying, but makes you the perfect hostage. So why don't you sit down, shut up before I ruin everything and rip off your head too early? And Elena just like slowly backs up and sits down and just like keeps an eye on Rebekah.
Yeah.
It's like, girl, I would have known that the second I got into this situation.
You should have never said anything.
The yapper really did not help in this scenario.
Definitely not. No, it only hurts in this case. But anyway, about to go figure out this mission, about to go deal with the Bennett bloodline. Mm-hmm. Stefan is thinking about juicing up. He's down in the... He's
looking at the freezer.
In the freezer, where all the blood bags are. And he kind of pulls one out and is looking at it, thinking about it.
And he like pops the top off of it, like he's about to do it.
He's so close. And Damon comes in at that point and says, clock's ticking. Are you going to help me brainstorm a plan? Or are you too busy fixing yourself a snack? And Stefan is like, we need to just call Bonnie. There has to be a way for her to just stop Esther from channeling all that power. And Damon is like, A, what if she's with Esther? Which we know she is.
Yeah.
B, what if she can't cut her off? C,
which we know she can't.
Yeah, which we know she can't. And then C, I don't know how any of this stuff works. And D, neither do you. And Stefan asks if he has a better plan. And Damon says, worst case scenario, simple mechanics, can't draw power from a dead battery. And Stefan is like, so you mean we're going to kill them? And Damon does say, if it comes to that.
Yeah.
And Stefan is still holding the blood bag at this point. And Damon takes it from his hands, takes a drink from it, and then hands it back to Stefan. And Stefan says, there has to be another way. And Damon is like, what if I told you I had a less diabolical plan? And then he holds up the silver dagger.
Yeah, the original's dagger.
Yep. And Stefan realizes that Damon wants to dagger Elijah. And Damon is like, well, they're all linked. If one goes down, they all go down. The witches live. Elena's safe. Problem solved. And Stefan points out, like, we don't know how that will affect Klaus, even with them all linked. And Damon just says, ironically, Klaus is not our current problem. Like, yeah.
We got bigger fish to fry at this point, buddy.
We're looking for a temporary solution.
Yeah.
We're not worrying about this. And Stefan just points out, the dagger will kill any vampire who uses it, as we know. And David is like, well, I just so happen to know of someone crazy enough to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And we already know who it is.
Yeah, of course, cut to that crazy person, Alaric, who's at the Mystic Grill on the phone with Damon, and he's near the pool table where Meredith is playing. And you can still see Klaus and Cole in the background, like, drinking at the bar. And Alaric confirms to Damon, like, yeah, they're here. They've drank their way through half of the grill's liquor supply. The grill probably has to have, like, massive amounts of liquor on stock because of all the vampires coming in there who have, like, a way too high tolerance. Yeah. And Damon says, good, it'll be easier if they're wasted. And Alaric asks, what's the plan? And Damon tells him, divide and conquer. First, we'll need a little blonde distraction. And literally on cue, Caroline comes in, the girl looking fantastic. As we mentioned, she upped it just a little bit for the honeypot scheme.
I was going to say the honeypotty becomes the honey potter.
Oh my god. Yeah, it really is. And she and Alaric exchange like a knowing look. Like, obviously they're both in on the plan.
We know what's up.
And he hangs up on Damon. The plan's in action now.
Yep.
And Cole notices Caroline and points her out to Klaus, saying, I remember her from last night. She looks like a tasty little thing. And Klaus angrily says, say another word and I'll tear out your liver.
I love him.
And she like kind of starts to walk by them, and he says her name, Caroline. And she doesn't look happy to see him, acting as if she didn't come in there specifically to interact with them.
I know.
Like she didn't know this was going to happen. And she says, oh, it's you. And Klaus asks her to join them for a drink. And she says, I'd rather die of thirst, but thanks. And she turns and leaves. And Klaus just laughs. And he leans over to Cole and he says, isn't she stunning? He's so funny for that.
He is.
And Cole says, she certainly looks good walking away from you. And Klaus, of course, as he says, takes that as a challenge, and he puts down his drink and he follows after her. The honeypot scheme is honeypotting. It is fully working. And she was definitely leaning into it. Like, I feel like all of those lines she was saying were like with such a flirty tone, even though she was like fully dissing him.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, she was definitely trying to get him to follow after her,
obviously.
For sure. And it works. And so we see outside the grill, Caroline is like just kind of crossed the road. And Klaus is running after her to the point where he almost get hit by a car. I was like, why did they have to do that? Why'd they have to make him look that unsmooth that he's like willing to get hit by traffic to follow her?
I know. They they kind of knocked him down a peg. Like, he's so desperate. He's running into traffic.
Minus 10 aura points for Klaus there, but like plus 100 to Caroline. Like,
true.
Really, like.
No, that's so true.
He was willing to get hit by a car to get to her. But also, it's not even minus aura points for me in a real way, because I'm like, man, to be that into her is really, I love it.
I know. Oh, I love him so much.
But anyway, he calls after her, and she finally stops and turns around to face him. And at this point, she's like dropped that sort of flirty act she was giving before. I feel like this is more like normal, serious Caroline. And she says to him, are you serious? Take a hint. And she turns to keep walking away again, but he like keeps following her. And he says, don't be angry, love. We had a little spat. I'm over it already. He's still like in the flirty, like, the way he says that is so funny to me. Like, I want to go watch it immediately after saying it, because it's just so perfect.
The next line too, I love.
Yeah, the next line too. And he says, like, he's being so cool guy about it, and she's like, oh, well, I'm not.
Yeah.
And he asks, how can I quit myself? And she stops again and turns to him and is like, you and your expensive jewelry and your romantic drawings, love that she acknowledges that they're romantic, can leave me alone. And he pleads, oh, come on, take a chance, Caroline. Talk to me. And then he sits down on a bench that's right next to them. So friendly. So inviting.
His aura just went back up a little bit.
Plus everything he just lost, plus some more. And he says, come on, get to know me. I dare you. And she huffs like she's kind of acting annoyed about it. And obviously this was all part of the plan. So she sits down, like buys into it and says, fine. But I also feel like she is kind of interested. Like the way that she huffs seems like she's like trying not to smile, or it's like playing into it a little bit. Not just as part of the act, but as part of like, I kind of want to. It's such a brilliant, like one of my favorite tropes, forced proximity. Yeah. But it's only forced proximity on her side. And like, I don't know. I think she's the type who really enjoys like compliments and flattery, and the fact that he is chasing her. Yeah. And it's like fully working on her. I think she's in denial about it. Yes. But she keeps getting put in these situations by her friends where they're like, go honeypot him. Yeah, go. Like, if I have to, like, I guess I'll do my part.
Yes, this is definitely the best use of me in the plan. I'll just distract
this is exactly what I should do. But anyway, so she sits down next to him and she says, so what do you want to talk about? And he just like is looking at her and he says, I want to talk about you, your hopes, your dreams, everything you want in life. And Caroline says, just to be clear, I'm too smart to be seduced by you. And Klaus says, well, that's what I like about you. And he just smirks at her, and she kind of like looks him up and down and is also smiling at him in a way that I think is very genuine.
Oh, I think so too.
It's not part of the plan.
No, I think so too.
To smile at him.
No. This is, like you were saying before, this is where I was like, she's definitely a little interested.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of like a good excuse after like last night getting the drawing. I feel like she's curious about him but has no reason to interact with him. And to do it would be like a betrayal of self and of the team and everything else, so she wouldn't have done it. But now it's like, well, if I have to,
I guess
I'll just talk to him because I'm supposed to for the plan. It doesn't mean anything.
I have to for
and
the
I'm not
plan.
enjoying it at all.
Yeah.
But we know.
Yeah, we know. Oh, I love Caroline. I could talk about them forever.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, I'll talk about my least favorite original. Yeah. Finn. At the witch house, Finn is lighting the torches that are around this pentagram made of salt on the ground.
Esther literally must have a bulk supplier of salt. Either that or they're stealing bats from the grill.
They probably are.
Like, even then, it's like you need huge, multiple bags.
Yeah. Like, no, it's a huge, thick line.
Yeah, it's like, I would have to say 100 pounds of salt. Like, it is
probably
a lot of salt.
It's a lot. Yeah, it is a big pentagram. They stand inside of it at one point. Yeah. It's huge. But anyway, Esther is kind of explaining the setup while, Finn is lighting the torches and everything. And she says the pentagram represents their connection to magic. The salt is a symbol of the earth. And then she also says there are 5 torches, 1 for each of my children. Mm-hmm. And then Esther says, as the witch who cast the spell that made them vampires, I can also reverse it. When they become human again, they can be killed. As they are linked as one, my brave Finn will be the sacrifice. With his death will come theirs. And then Abby asks, because they were asking about like all the spell and all the setup. Mm-hmm. And then Abby asks if Finn is just willing to die, like she's surprised. And Finn just says, my mother has released me from an eternity of shame. It's not a sacrifice. It's a gift.
He's so insufferable.
He's so insufferable. I can't. And I can't with him.
Yeah, but luckily he'll be going down soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, give it a minute.
Cut to the plan, because of course Damon and Stefan weren't going to go along with what Elijah wanted for them. So we see inside the grill, Cole is like watching Meredith play pool, and he walks up to her and says, a woman of your caliber ought to choose more suitable company. What's your name, love? And she's having none of it, of course, obviously. Not even, like, looking at him. She's just continuing to play. And she's like, none of your business. And Cole says, let's try that again. I'll start. I'm Cole. And she, like, starts to walk away saying, why don't you get lost, Cole? And he follows after her and says, and why should I do that? I like pretty little things with sharp tongues, which is... I would kind of fold if the guy said that to me. But
I was like, okay, I'm yours.
Yeah. But anyway, he like starts getting closer to Meredith and touches her face, which is where it's like, okay, bro, too far.
Too much.
she slaps his hand away, and then Alaric appears, walking right up to them and says, I'm pretty sure she told you to get lost. And Cole says, I'm pretty sure I don't care. And then he like turns to face Alaric, and Alaric goes for it and stabs Cole with the dagger.
Yep.
And says, next time take a hint. Alaric loves like a little dig after like a little.
He does.
A moment.
He really does.
And also, just to cut in before I get into this, Meredith really fits Cole's type too, which I thought was interesting. Like based on originals and stuff, I'm like, I see it. I see.
No, I do
does
see
like
it
pretty
too.
little things with sharp tongues.
Yep.
She definitely fits his vibe.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no.
But anyway, of course, he goes down, and we start to see in the tunnels, Rebekah suddenly cries out, and like you see her die.
Desiccating.
Yeah, and fall to the ground. Elena like is like, what's going on? But takes her moment and runs past her, making her great escape. Then we see, of course, at the old witch house, Finn is also, he like starts to die and falls to the ground, and Esther's like, something's wrong. Huh? You think?
Yeah, clearly.
He just died out of nowhere?
Yeah, obviously not. Yeah, and then we see the big question mark. We see Klaus gets up from the bench where he was talking with Caroline and puts his hand on his heart, but isn't like desiccating.
Yeah, he's not dying, but he's feeling it.
But he definitely feels something. And he looks at Caroline, and Caroline asks, like, what is it? And Klaus is like, what did you do? And Caroline says, nothing. And then Klaus grabs Caroline, like almost like shaking her, and yells, what did you do? And Caroline sort of yells back, like, I didn't do anything. Stop it.
Yeah, but she's really avoiding eye contact. I feel like it's so obvious that she's laughing.
Yeah, she's in on the plot for sure. And Klaus kind of takes a beat and then looks back at the grill and is like, Cole. And realizes, like, something's happened with Cole probably. And then we see at the back of the grill, like in the alleyway, that they actually end up using a lot.
I love the little alleyway.
I do too. And we see Alaric dragging Cole into the alleyway. And Stefan and Damon are there waiting. And Alaric tells them to grab Cole. But before they can, Klaus rushes over, undaggers Cole, knocks Alaric against the wall. Stefan tries to, like, you know, stop this from going down. But Klaus knocks him down too. And then we start to see, like, Rebekah sort of comes back alive.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, you know,
it didn't work. You can assume the rest of them are all waking up. The rest of them are coming back. As soon as he's undaggered, yeah.
Yeah. And Klaus is like, he looks at Damon and he's like, I should have killed you months ago. And Damon tells him to do it. It's not going to stop Esther from killing you. And Klaus is like, what did you say about my mother?
I can't believe Elijah didn't tell Klaus any of this was going down. Klaus is the most suspicious person ever. I know. He even hinted to Klaus of something, which is maybe why he didn't do it. Because if Klaus even had a
he probably would have killed Esther, like,
oh yeah, just based off the stage. He would have been like, you're keeping secrets? Dead.
True. Honestly, yeah, fair enough. But Klaus asks what he said about his mother, and Damon is like, oh, you didn't know I was friends with your mummy? Yeah, we have a lot in common. She hates you as much as I do. And Klaus kind of like makes to attack Damon, and then Elijah appears and says, leave him. We still need them, Niklaus.
Yeah. Also and crazy when he appears. He still has.
He's like, Elijah is like still undesiccating. I noticed that too. But also, where was he that he
must have been like on his way. Yeah. Even then, wherever he was when he woke up, he was like straight to the grill.
Right to the grill. Like, I know where they all are, I guess.
Maybe he was coming to get Cole and Klaus and be like, she's doing something.
Yeah.
Look,
shit's about to go down.
We got to rally everyone. So he's probably on his way for them already.
That's probably true. But yeah, Klaus turns to Elijah and is like, what did mother do? Like, what did she do? And Elijah sort of walks down the stairs toward them and holds out the phone and is like, to Damon, he says, tell me where the witches are or I'll have my sister kill Elena right now. And Damon looks up at the clock tower and sees that it's 8:30. And he says, you told me we had until after 9. And Elijah's like, well, I'm sure Rebekah would be more than happy to start her work early.
Of course.
Yeah, of course she is. And we'll see that she is.
Yeah, cut to Rebekah, who's so ready to kill Elena. Yeah. We see her like
holding herself back.
Yeah, we can see her getting up off the floor and noticing that Elena's missing. Mm-hmm. And Rebekah immediately starts running through the tunnels. And then we see Elena's also like running through the tunnels trying to escape before Rebekah can catch up, obviously, which is not even really realistic at this point. Because even if she gets outside, Rebekah will catch up inevitably.
I was going to say, almost worse to be outside.
She needs like an actual plan here. And we'll see.
Which we'll see.
Yeah, Rebekah is like yelling out, taunting through the tunnels. You can't hide, Elena. And Elena's running. She trips and falls. And Rebekah's still like yelling out, not sure why I'm feeling under the weather. Must be your boys trying to find a loophole. But she says it won't matter. I could chase you on my worst day. And we see Elena gets up and she sees the magical like cave that no vampire can enter where Esther's like coffin still is. Yeah. So it's like, okay, there we go. That's the plan. Get in there, Elena. But of course, just as she gets there, Rebekah grabs her from behind and says, boo. She's found her. And Elena, no hesitation, immediately headbutts the back of her head into Rebekah's face. And, of course, Rebekah, like, stumbles back, and it gives Elena, like, that split second she needed to jump into the cave that no vampire can enter, which, of course, Rebekah doesn't even know. And she's like, you little bitch. And she starts to try to follow Elena into the cave, but she hits the barrier and can't get in. And she's like, what is this? And Elena tells her, sorry, no vampires allowed.
This was brilliant of Elena.
This was brilliant. Yeah, thank goodness. She kind of got lucky of just stumbling on it, but unless she knew where she was going, which I can't assume she, like, fully did, but either way,
a general direction, but
either way though, like, no hesitation of like, she's got her hands. I need only 1 second to get her hands off of me and I can get a foot into this like cave, and that's all that I need.
Such a bold move.
So bold. Elena is nothing if not bold.
Yes, that's true. We see the aftermath of the Alaric getting knocked
thrown into a wall.
The wall in the alleyway. He's back at Meredith's apartment now. And Meredith is getting him an ice pack from the fridge. And she kind of like pushes him back down into a chair as he tries to leave. And he says, like, Elena's still out there. I need to go find her. Which I just love. This bond between Elena and Alaric.
He's got to take care of her.
And Meredith tells him he might have a concussion. So he needs to stay like sitting down. And Alaric kind of sits back and is like, kind of takes in the apartment and is like, so this is your place, huh? Kind of a slob.
Yeah, there's just papers.
I was saying there's like a couple papers. I mean, she's a doctor. They're probably like, records and stuff. And there's like maybe a couple takeout containers.
Yeah, it's not like that
it's
bad.
A dump.
It's like TV bad.
Yeah.
Also,
it's like
I love her apartment.
I was thinking that too.
The green walls, the bookcases with all the books everywhere, so academic, so lived in. Yes, I love it.
I know. I was thinking this actually. I was watching the next episode earlier, and I was thinking, Meredith really does have, in a weird way, like more personality than some other characters.
Characters we've gotten way more episodes of.
Yes, and her apartment is a big part of that. Like, it does feel like she's a doctor, like a young woman.
She's an academic.
It just works so well. Even right down to the little like takeout containers. I'm like, it makes sense. She was just in surgery.
Yeah, she's not gonna cook.
But anyway, it's not that bad. It's just like normal lived in. And Meredith says housekeeping isn't high on my priority list. And Alaric is kind of like, yeah, I see that. Okay. Yeah. And then Meredith gets out her like doctor flashlight and is checking his pupils. And she says it looks good. And Alaric tries to sit up, but he like, before he can even do it himself, he like groans in pain and just kind of sits back down. And Meredith's like, oh yeah, you like also might have a broken rib. That's why it's painful. And Alaric's like, that kind of sucks, getting my ass kicked on a date. And Meredith says, that's what you get picking fights with guys 30 times your age. And she tells him, to rest. Damon and Stefan are going to go take care of Elena, like, and I'll take care of you. Yeah. So just stay seated, stay there.
Yeah.
And they kind of like, hold hands and smile. Yeah.
I really like them. And I like that they were like acknowledging that they were like on a date. And, it's nice that they have this. We'll see where it goes at the end of the episode, but for now it's nice.
For right now it's cute.
Yeah. Speaking of the vibes and all, whatever, it's of course the boys. Damon and Stefan are pulling up in the woods in Damon's car, and Damon asks, how do we know they're gonna be at the old witch house? And Stefan says, we don't, but if they're not, then we have about 10 minutes until Rebekah tears Elena apart. And Damon suggests, if we sit this out, Esther completes her spell, Klaus dies, you get your revenge. It's what you wanted this whole time. The only collateral damage is... And Stefan finishes the thought, Elena. And Damon says, what she'd choose. And Stefan again follows it with, she'd let herself be killed to save her friend. Of course.
Always.
So interesting foreshadowing there. Like, they're really teeing us up for the back half of this season. Or like the last episode of this season, I should say. And Damon agrees, and Stefan says, if we do this, it'll wreck her. And Damon says she'll hate us. So they're fully aware of how Elena will feel about this and acknowledging what she would want them to do. But Damon explains, thing is, she only has to hate one of us.
That's true.
Only one of us has to do the actual deed. And Stefan says, so who's it going to be, brother? And Damon pulls out a coin and says, heads I do it, tails you do it. Most sibling decision making ever here. And Stefan says, that's an awful lot of effort for someone who pretends not to care about her anymore. And Damon's like, pot kettle, brother.
Yeah.
Come on. We obviously both care about her so much. And are both pretending we don't. So Damon flips the coin, catches it, puts it on top of his other hand, and he slowly removes it to reveal the result to Stefan and to himself, but we don't get to see.
Yeah, we don't see.
We also sort of barely see their reactions. They're not really like, they don't indicate who.
No.
Like, they kind of are just
neutral.
Serious.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like, either way, no matter who it is, it's serious for both of them. And it's like.
Yes. Yeah, no. It's not like a.
They don't feel good about it. They're not like.
Exactly.
Yes,
There's no like relief or. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So it's like. Yeah, but it's also a clear indicator here of how Stefan's like feelings have drastically changed about Elena and about this whole situation. He didn't even really seem willing earlier to let Bonnie and Abby die for this whole thing. So clearly, like, he's changed so much, and clearly they both are very much still in love with Elena.
Definitely, yeah. Speaking of Elena, she's still in that cave, and she gets a flashlight, kind of sees Rebekah is gone, so she starts to move toward the exit of the cave. But then Rebekah appears right back in front of the entrance holding a canister filled with gasoline.
She's crazy.
She's crazy. And she immediately splashes some on Elena. It soaks
her whole jacket.
Yeah, the entire bottom half of her body.
Fall 2014 outfit.
I know. Poor girl. Yeah. At least she missed the forever scarf.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elena is like, what are you doing? And Rebekah like keeps like, trying to douse the cave in gasoline.
Yeah, getting the whole floor.
Yeah. And Rebekah says she thought she'd shake things up a bit. And Elena is like, are you insane? And Rebekah says, I prefer spontaneous. It's probably why Damon likes me so much.
Oh, she loves a dig.
She does. She's wild. And then Rebekah goes to throw the whole looks like metal canister at Elena, but Elena dies.
Well, if it had hit her, she would have been just knocked out.
She would have been dead.
Yeah.
I really think it would have killed her. It like really hits the wall and it looks like it's flying.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elena ducks. She doesn't get hit. And then Rebekah pulls out a match and Rebekah starts to say, here's what's going to happen. And she's lighting the match, throws it into the cave, and a little fire starts. And Rebekah is saying, while this is going on, you're going to come outside. She lights another match, throws it in, starts another little fire. Or you're going to stay in there and burn. And then those fires kind of like burn out because they're just in the cave.
Yeah, there's like a commercial cutaway too where it comes back again and it's like you just see the fire dying out.
Yeah. It's like it's on the stone in the cave.
Yeah.
And then Rebekah says, the next match is landing on you. So, Elena, how does it feel to know that these may be your last moments? And again, she's recording Elena. It's so bad.
And she's also, like, holding it so the phone screen is to Elena so Elena can see herself. Like, it's so unnatural. They must have gotten in their product placement, like, you need to be able to see the front of the screen, not, like, the back of the phone.
I don't know.
She just has to hold it, like, next to her, which is so unnatural.
Yeah. I also am convinced it was like pre-recorded because it's like not really at the right angle.
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe not, but it's just so weird. But anyway, she's filming her and Elena says, I don't know, you tell me, because obviously Rebekah's about to have her last moments. And she says, Esther is the one trying to kill you. And Rebekah tells Elena to be very careful what she says to her. And Elena points out Rebekah is still wearing Esther's necklace. Rebekah is like, she's obviously kind of hurt by this. And she says, do you want it? Is that your last request? And rips off the necklace and throws it into the cave and says, here, it's all yours. And Elena, realizes how upset Rebekah is and tries to tell her that Esther's not doing this because she hates her. She told me that she doesn't feel like she has another choice. And Rebekah tells Elena to spare me your pity. We're not girlfriends. Allow me to prove it. Just say the word. And Rebekah lights another match, and Elena says, she kind of realizes after like a second, she's like, you're not going to do it. And Rebekah is like, why is that? And Elena says, because there's still a chance you might be alive tomorrow. And if that's the case and you kill me now, you'll have used up all of your revenge. Is that what you want? Revenge? Because I pretended I liked you and stuck a dagger in your back. I mean, that's why you slept with Damon, isn't it? Still hung up on this.
Yeah.
That's why.
The fact she even had to bring this up now.
I was going to say, girl, you're about to die. You're about to burn alive. And she says, that's why you're tormenting me, because I hurt your feelings when she daggered her. And then the match kind of like burns out. Like Rebekah kind of lets it go out and she drops it and just says, the tough act doesn't suit you. And Elena says, I never said I was tough, but we both know that I'm right.
I don't think Elena's right.
No, I think more than anything, it's just Rebekah's like, if I'm alive tomorrow, I want to
then I guess I won't be able to save her killing you.
Yeah.
Slowly. I don't know. I think Rebekah slept with Damon just because.
Yeah,
just to,
I don't think there was any motivation.
I think it was an afterwards perk, in the morning.
Saw her in the morning. I think so too.
But I don't think she did it thinking about Elena.
No.
And I also don't think that I don't know that she's not gonna kill. She definitely would kill Elena.
For sure.
I feel like there was no world in which she wasn't eventually going to kill Elena.
Yeah, that's true. As we know.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting that Elena's giving her this whole speech about how she's not gonna do it. It's she will eventually.
She will. Maybe she'll savor it for today, but
yeah. But she has just as much reason to just do it now. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think Elena really gets it, but she thinks she does.
She does.
And Rebekah's playing into it for some reason. So, of course, at the old witch house, Finn is standing in the center of the huge pentagram, and he announces, "They're coming, mother." And she said, and Esther says, "No, it's too soon. The moon is not high enough." And she tells Abby and Bonnie to go quickly. And so they run into the house just as Cole, Elijah, and Klaus appear coming out of the darkness. It's one of those great in sync shots.
Yeah.
I feel like I always want to use it. I'm how can we put this into an edit or something? Because it's such a good shot of the three of them. And Esther says, "My sons, come forward." And Finn tells her, "Stay beside me, mother." Let me protect you. And Esther walks into the pentagram too and tells him it's okay, they can't enter. And Cole is the one, of course, who gets really close to the pentagram, and the torches start to light up a lot brighter as he has to back up. And he says, "That's lovely. We're stuck out here while the favorite son plays sacrificial lamb. How pathetic you are, Finn." And Esther tells Cole to be quiet. And she says, "Your brother knows virtue you cannot even imagine."
Esther has favorites for sure.
Oh, Cole's confirmed in
not
this
even ranked.
Cole's, which is so funny based on the originals that
I know.
I don't know. It is, Cole's bottom of the list as only above Klaus. Only because Klaus killed him. Yeah. But anyway, Elijah says, "Whatever you think of us, killing your own children will be an atrocity." I feel he's sort of right, but I also feel he's so not, because they're not children. They're 900-year-old people who've murdered
it's
countless people across
slaughtering little
innocents.
babies.
Yeah, she's killing some of the greatest evils that have ever existed, that have committed so many atrocities across so many continents to so many people that I don't know. I don't think he's really right with that one, but I see what he's trying to do.
I get what he's getting at.
Yeah. And Esther, of course, doesn't get it. She's like, "My only regret is that I did not let you die 1,000 years ago." And Klaus is kind of circling at this point, the pacing back and forth, observing in the background. And he finally pipes up saying, "Enough. All this talk is boring me. End this now, mother, or I'll send you back to hell." And he has one of his secret little, it's not really a smile, but it feels like a smile. Self-satisfied, "I've got you now because I'll kill you." And so, of course, Esther responds with one of her huge, speeches as usual and says, "For 1,000 years, I've been forced to watch you, felt the pain of every victim, suffered while you shed blood. Even you, Elijah, with your claim to nobility, you're no better. All of you, you're a curse on this earth stretched out over generations. If you've come to plead for your life, I'm sorry, you've wasted your time." Mic drop.
Yeah. I also noticed, I think her eyes were a little bit glassy. I think she was She was feeling this.
They're still her children. She did all of this to save their life, and now she's felt, the repercussions of that and what they've done, and I think is like ashamed by that, but still kind of in spite of all of that cares for them, and
of course
feels like a mother to them. And it's an interesting position to be in, but of course it's not going to stop her from doing what she needs to do.
No, of course not. There are also other people who are not going to be stopped. Yeah, we see Bonnie and Abby have gone inside the witch house, and they're kind of walking through, and Bonnie explains, Abby probably hasn't been in here before. She tells her the witch spirits will protect us from the originals, but we should get to the basement. And Bonnie kind of walks down to the basement, but she realizes Abby doesn't follow her, so Bonnie kind of calls back to her. And then Stefan appears in front of her, and Bonnie's like, what's going on? And Stefan tells her, they took Elena. They're going to kill her unless we stop Esther. And Bonnie's like, Stefan, I can't stop her. She's channeling us.
Yeah.
And Stefan tells her, if Bonnie can't stop Esther from channeling them, he has to find another way. Mm-hmm. And they kind of look at each other for a minute. And Bonnie starts to get the picture. Like, she gets a look on her face where she's terrified. Like, especially because Stefan's been so off the rails.
Oh, yeah. He tried to kill Elena like 2 nights ago.
Yeah. Bonnie's like, I'm nothing compared to Elena in his eyes. So
yeah, her eyebrows like scrunch up. Like she looks terrified, clearly realizing.
Of course. And she kind of starts to say, like, Stefan, no. And she tries to escape, but Stefan rushes over and like cuts her off. And Bonnie is like, what are you going to do? Even if you kill us, Esther is channeling every witch in our ancestry, living and dead. And Stefan explains that Esther is drawing from witches. The only way to cut her off is if one of you is no longer a witch. Which I think is clever. Like, I like the idea that it wasn't enough to just, like, kill one of them. They're still just a dead ancestor.
Yeah.
And then we see upstairs where this is all adding up. We see what's actually going to happen. Damon grabs Abby, bites his wrist, feeds her his blood, tells her it'll only hurt a second, and then kills her.
Yeah, snaps her neck right there.
Immediately. And then outside, Esther can sense instantly, of course, like something is wrong. And Esther yells out, "No, sisters, do not abandon me."
My favorite line.
Same.
We've got to find a way to use that in like a meme or something. It's so iconic.
I know. I love it. It lives in my head rent free. I just think it all the time.
Yeah.
I love her. And then the pentagram torches flare up. Esther, like, Finn kind of goes to like grab her, and then the flames are everywhere. So the rest of the originals are like cowering. It's chaos.
It is chaos.
So obviously something is going down. It's falling apart. And after a minute, like, the fire goes out, and Elijah, Klaus, and Cole are left standing there, and Esther and Finn are gone.
Yeah. They're obviously shocked. They don't even know.
They don't even know what's going on, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I would assume they probably figure out pretty quickly that Damon and Stefan succeeded in what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's definitely like they're just gone.
And they were like, let's make our escape, and we'll come back at some point.
But that, of course, now means why they did all of this, the freedom of Elena. We see her in the cave, and she's sitting on the floor now, obviously, like, waiting. When Rebekah shows up and tells her, you can come out now, seems like your boys took care of the problem. And Elena gets up and asks, how did they do that? And Rebekah tells her, Damon turned your witch friend's mother into a vampire. Quite clever, actually. And she explains, like, the whole thing to her and says that, like, you can't be a witch and a vampire, so that cut them off. And Rebekah also tells her, that means you're free to go. Oh, and by the way, you were right. I do prefer taking my time watching you suffer. Much more satisfying.
Yep.
Elena's free to go now with the threat that Rebekah's going to be torturing her forever.
Yep, this will last, pretty much the rest of the season.
Oh, yes, literally.
They'll come back, though. But Elena, obviously, very upset by this news about Abby.
Yes, of course.
And we see immediately, like, at Caroline's house, Abby is laying on her bed, and Bonnie's sitting there holding her hand crying.
Why do people always have to be dead in Caroline's bed?
I know. I was like, Caroline better burn that mattress.
Yeah.
It's
just need
bad vibes.
They need to move a hospital bed in there.
I know, honestly. But yes, Abby is laying in there dead, and Bonnie's holding her hand crying. And we see Caroline at the front door talking to Elena. She's clearly like just answered the door to her. And Caroline tells Elena that Bonnie doesn't want to see her right now. And Elena like asks again, she's like, please just let me talk to her. And Caroline explains Abby's in transition. It's going to be really hard the next few days. And if Bonnie needs some time to deal, then I think you should give it to her. And Elena is like, she's always been there for me. Let me be there for her too. And Caroline says, I'm sorry, Elena. I know that you want to help, but put yourself in her shoes. Everything that happened tonight was to save you. And that's okay because she loves you so much. But somehow she's always the one that gets hurt. And Elena kind of nods understandingly, and she's like getting teary-eyed. And, she admits, she's like, you're right. And she just asks Caroline to tell Bonnie that she loves her. And Caroline is like, of course I will. And Elena leaves. And we see Bonnie was kind of in the hallway listening and crying. Obviously, very upset.
Yeah.
And I have so many thoughts on this.
I know. I don't know if I can even articulate like how I feel because
I know.
I feel really mixed about the whole thing. Like
I know. I feel the same.
I totally get it. It's so fair. But I feel so bad for Elena because this wasn't her fault and it wasn't any decision she made. But I do think it's like really hard to be in a position like Bonnie's where you are constantly getting like the short end of the stick because like your friend is being chosen over you or is getting these advantages that you're not getting.
Yeah. Which I do really overall agree with like Caroline's point. Like Bonnie is always getting the short end of the stick. But I don't know if this is even one of those times. Like she met Abby, not necessarily met, but basically met. She admitted herself, basically met her like a week ago. Like Abby left her.
It's been like 2 days.
Yeah, not even.
It's been so short.
It's been no time. Like I love Bonnie. I will like defend Bonnie at all costs, but I just feel like this is the one thing where I'm like, I kind of don't really see where she's coming from. Abby literally abandoned her when she was a child.
Yeah.
They've made amends in 2 days. All is forgiven.
Yeah. I think my thought too is that it digs up stuff about Grams. Because Grams literally had to die in order to save Elena to get the tomb open and blah, blah, blah.
I guess that's true. It does just bring up all the other times where she's gotten the short end of the stick.
Yeah, where it's like anytime I do this stuff, I'm the one who loses someone.
There's some sort of sacrifice.
And it's not to say that Elena doesn't lose people too. She does. And Bonnie's so aware of that, I think, in other like scenes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's one of those things where, I've had those moments where you're mad at a friend and it's like, it's not rational. I shouldn't be mad at them because it's not their fault. But I can't help but be mad at them because I don't feel served in whatever way. Like I do feel like I'm getting, and that's where I relate to Bonnie in that sentiment. But it's hard. It's so hard.
I get it. But it also, to me, I'm like, she's just going to be a vampire. Like,
yeah, she at least got to live.
I mean, not that that's, she at least got to live. But I mean, I know it's a huge change, but.
I think that's where it's fair to be like, I just need a day. Like, I just don't want to see you
I think that's fine.
I think it does depend how it goes down in, like, the next few. And I don't exactly remember, like, when and how they start talking again.
I'm not totally sure either.
I think that's where it starts to depend about how Bonnie starts to treat her. Because it wasn't Elena's choice. She wasn't involved. It wasn't her fault. Abby still got to live. And Abby's not even a person at this point who Bonnie really has a relationship or cares for.
Yeah.
She cares for in the, like, sort of default, you're my birth mother.
Of course.
Way.
Yeah.
But... And maybe about what could this be, you're coming back into my life way. But I don't know.
Yeah. I also just have to say I don't like that Caroline was the one to deliver this message.
I thought that too. I wished Bonnie would have at least just said something to her.
Yeah. It felt very like, we're kind of aligned against you, Elena. Like, I thought that on Bonnie's side, which I know it isn't, but it just, I don't know, the way it was, maybe it's the dialogue or something. I don't know.
It gives it like a little bit of a high school tone in a weird way.
Yeah,
be like pitting sides.
I've got her back and you need to just leave.
I kind of felt that too.
I don't know.
And it's weird because I actually think Caroline's delivery here is very like neutral and heartfelt and like understanding what's going on for both of them. Like I don't think anything about the way she does it. It's just purely like the setup of it.
I think so too. Yeah, I agree. It's nothing like Caroline or like Candace is doing, but I just don't like the use of Caroline in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's a weird scene.
Yeah.
Also sort of like at odds, the weird vibes of Always is Damon and Stefan, of course.
These two.
At the Salvatore house, as usual, Damon's washing his hands because he's the clean boy aesthetic that we always talk about. And Stefan's standing in his bedroom with his arms crossed looking at Damon. And Damon asks, is she safe? Of course, meaning Elena. And Stefan says, Elijah kept his word. Rebekah let her go. And Damon replies, good, all's right in the world again. And he picks up his drink and he like goes to walk back in his room. And Stefan says, I lost that coin toss, Damon. It should have been me who turned Abby. Why did you do it? And Damon says, because I'm not blind. I see what's been going on around here. You're hanging on by a thread, Stefan. Barely over your last Ripper binge, and all you want to be is the old Stefan again. This is exactly what we've said in the last few episodes, so I'm like vindicated. I'm like, yes. This is exactly what's happening, and Stefan wants to be the old Stefan.
Oh, for sure.
But he's just not yet, obviously. And Stefan, although I think, like we said earlier with the diary, is aware of this internally, he is still verbally denying it.
Yeah.
And says, that part of me is gone for good. And Damon says, oh yeah, how long has it been since your last drop of human blood? And Stefan reveals, since the night that I threatened to drive Elena off of Wickery Bridge. Damon also reveals that he knew this because, spend 146 years with someone, you start to pick up on your tells. Yeah,
of course.
And Damon says, see, you have enough to be guilty about.
True.
And he says, why add to the list? Also, by the way, you're welcome. And Damon starts to walk away, but Stefan stops him by saying, you're not fooling anyone either. You still love her, Damon. And Damon agrees, I do. And I thought I could win her from you fair and square, but she didn't want me. It's for the best. I'm better at being the bad guy anyway. And he holds up his drink again in a sort of cheers, and then he leaves the room.
Yeah. I love that Damon knew this whole time. I mean, we knew he knew because he was, like, testing him earlier, but I'm like, I just love them.
It speaks really to being, so in tune with Stefan's,
definitely.
Whatever it is, his personality, his habits. I don't know what, keyed him in, but he knew. It's a nice little moment, I think, for them. Even though it's like a fight, it's a nice moment. They didn't punch each other, so this is really progress.
I was going to say, they've made some progress, for sure. Yeah, another nice little moment we see back at the Gilbert house. Elena's finally home. She walks into her room, and she picks up a letter that's on her bed from Elijah. And she opens it and reads, and we hear it in Elijah's voiceover. Yeah. It says, Elena, today I did things I abhor to protect the one thing I value the most, my family. If anyone can understand that, it's you. Your compassion is a gift, Elena. Carry it with you, as I will carry my regret, always and forever, Elijah. Kind of trying to make a little amends there.
Yeah, clearly very affected by what Esther said about them being a curse and calling him out specifically for his nobility and how that's such a hypocrisy.
Yeah.
We've called that out a couple of times where it's like, is Elijah really that noble? He still murders people. Every chance he wakes up, he's like, let me rip out somebody's heart.
Yeah, he literally went and got his villain suit. Yeah, come on, Elijah. And we do see more of how much this has affected him. Rebekah gets home to the Michelson house, and Elijah is there staring out the window, just brooding. Yeah. And Rebekah's like, where the bloody hell is everyone?
Yeah.
And Elijah tells her that everything is over, and Rebekah asks where Esther is, and she refers to her as her mother.
Yeah.
And Elijah says, we have no mother, only Esther, and Esther was right. Rebekah asks what he means, and this is what we were getting at. He says, my talk of virtue. When it suits my needs, I kill, maim, and torment. Even today, I terrorized an innocent. And Rebekah is like, Elena is hardly an innocent. I mean,
she's an 18-year-old girl. She
did stab you in the back, but a little different.
Yeah. She's never killed someone.
Yeah.
Just, other than a vampire, probably.
Yeah, I guess Alaric, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But different. And Elijah just goes on to say, and I used your hatred of her to get what I wanted. I wielded you like I would a sword. My sister. And Rebekah tries to, kind of comfort him and says, you did it to protect us. And rightly so. We deserve to live. We are better than they are. And Elijah hits her with are we? Mother made us vampires. She didn't make us monsters. We did that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that, Rebekah, and we've seen this from Cole a lot, but even more so Rebekah, to, think of themselves as being, above everyone else and better than everyone else. And that they should get to live 1,000 years while people are, dying at 17.
Dying at, 18. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like you are aware of it, and like the Cole ones especially feel a little bit more jokey, casual, whatever. But like Rebekah's saying it so point blank here. We are better than they are.
Being serious too. Yeah, not in like that jokey way that Cole might say.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that that's like an opinion that they really like hold and live by, is that we're better than everyone. We get to live while everyone else dies.
Yeah.
Really insane.
I guess 1,000 years will do that to you.
I guess so. The superiority complex you get from that is a little much.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. But
yeah.
Yeah. Then.
But anyway, then of course, on to the only other sibling that's left is Klaus. He's in another room, sitting by the fire, burning sketches that he drew of Caroline, and which is just so funny. He's like, she betrayed me.
He's such a baby.
Yeah, this is what we say all the time. Like, I love him, but he's such a child. Like, he literally really is. He's like, she distracted me with her beauty. I can't fall for it anymore. So he's burning the sketches. He's going to be right back to drawing her in like 2 episodes.
I was going to say, he's going out to buy a new sketchbook tomorrow.
Yeah. So Rebekah comes in and finds him, and Klaus says, I thought you'd have gone by now. Elijah's leaving, Cole has fled, Esther and Finn are gone too. And she tells him, like, getting serious. She doesn't even really acknowledge it. She's like, I hated you when I learned you killed our mother. But I realize now that after 1,000 years together as a family, you're the only one who's never left me. And he says, well, aren't we a pair? And she gets, like, still serious. And she says, there's something I need you to see. And she pulls out her phone and she holds it out to show Klaus the video that she took of Elena. And he says, come to brag about your skills as a torturer. And he looks at the phone and she tells him, like, no, like, look past Elena. And she tells him, the natives told the story of our family history. Look at the images on the wall. Confirmation the natives are the one that put the cave drawings up.
Yeah, I guess so.
We debated that so hard of like who did that. We did polls. Everyone was split. Nobody could agree. But I guess this is confirmation that the natives in the area were the ones who.
I guess. I still don't understand how they found out this whole saga, but.
I don't know if they could talk to ghosts or spirits or whatever and somehow fill it in. But somehow they knew a lot. Down to the fact that they knew the next thing, which Klaus like asks her what it is, and she explains a native worshiping at the great white oak tree. And he's like, yeah, we burnt it down, so what?
Yeah.
And she says, look at the markings that precede it. That's the native calendar. He's like, that can't be right. And she tells him, a white oak tree 300 years after we fled back to the old world. She says there must have been a sapling, a new tree to replace the old. That tree could kill us. It's not over, Nick. Dun, dun, dun.
I love this. I love this setup. And also, I noticed, I think for like the first time, Klaus's lip quivers when she starts to make this reveal that like there could still be another white oak tree out there.
Yeah, like, he's so good at the really subtle signs of fear, of like sadness, of devastation. He's very good at just like the on command lip quivers.
Yeah. I love a lip quiver. Even Stefan's ridiculous one.
Yes. But yeah, it's the great setup of like, there's a weapon out there that can kill the originals. There's wood somewhere that is actually what can kill them.
It is not over, like she said.
Yeah, and the race to find that will begin in the next episode.
Yes, but before we get to that, we have to check back in with Alaric. He wakes up still in Meredith's apartment and on the sofa, and he, kind of gets up slowly and walks over and sees in the bedroom that Meredith is in there asleep. And then he goes into the kitchen to get some aspirin, it looks like it is. And he takes the medicine, but then he's kind of looking around and he notices like folders on the counter, and he sees his own, like his name on one of them. It's obviously like his medical file. And he kind of opens it up and looks. And then he picks up another with Bill Forbes' name on it. But it very clearly is like the investigation file, not his medical file. And then there are crime scene photos in it, like of the knife used to kill him. And then he's looking and he sees wrapped in like a red like dishcloth the knife.
Yeah, they killed Bill.
Killed Bill.
Always.
And then like as he's looking at it, he's just unwrapped it, he hears the sound of like a gun being cocked, and we see Meredith is aiming a gun at him. Of course, again, setting up she's the serial killer.
Yeah.
And she says, you weren't supposed to see that. and shoots him.
Yeah, and then cuts.
It cuts.
End of episode.
End of episode, yeah.
She shot him.
She shot him.
What a cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's wild. And she's not supernatural, so.
Yeah. So clearly a huge part of the next episode will also be what is going on with these killings. Who is killing the founding family members?
Yeah.
Like, as we've been seeing, this has been a problem, but like that was a scene that just escalated it like super dramatically.
Yeah.
And of course is where the next one will kind of pick up and try to explain. But that's it for this episode.
Yeah. For now, let's turn it over to our voicemail host and see what you guys have to say.
Hey, it is me, Kendall, once again. So my song of the episode is the very first scene of the episode, Poison and Wine by the Civil Wars. My out-of-pocket moment is when Cole was slut-shaming Rebekah. And then I feel like Stefan's journals are kind of like a symbol for his humanity in a way. And they always say that Elena is the perfect hostage, even throughout the entire show. And Caroline is always also the perfect distraction. And I will always be Team Caroline till I die. I will always hate Finn because he's just like horrible. The car scene with Stefan and Damon will always be one of my favorites, and it's so meaningful between the two of them. Also, the originals may be horrible for things they have done, but they all do not deserve to die. The writers also did Bonnie so wrong, but I also do feel like Elijah will always be so kind and passionate, even as a vampire. And the last scene with Alaric is so crazy. Like, they go so many twists and turns between him and Dr. Fell. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I cannot wait to see your guys' thoughts. And yeah, bye.
Thank you to our voicemail host. We love hearing from you guys. To wrap up this episode, for deaths, we just have the one. Abby was killed by Damon.
Yeah, broken neck to become a vampire.
Yep.
Classic.
Broken neck. She'll be back. She'll be a vampire.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Not a huge death.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Another category that might be quick or might be hard because there's not much is out of pocket or things we would have done differently. Honestly, my only thing, and maybe it's just because the dramatic cliffhanger there, is Meredith shooting Alaric.
Okay, that's good. I wanted to say, like, a little part of me wanted to say Klaus burning the sketches of Caroline because he's such a baby.
It's so funny.
But he is so real for it. So I also said Meredith shooting Alaric just for looking at something that was out on the counter.
Yeah, which, and not to spoil the next episode, but in the next episode, like, you do get revealed that she shot him in the shoulder. And she claims she had to shoot him because he was coming at her with a knife, which is insane. He was just holding it and it was still in the cloth. But that's a next episode out of pocket. But still, the shot is this episode, so I think it counts as this episode's out of pocket.
No, I agree. I had the exact same thing. I was like, it was on the counter. What was she expecting?
I love that. So Meredith wins out of pocket.
Yep. As for quote, I only had one. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you already know what it is. And probably you guys also, because I had said it before.
Oh, I have 3, and that is one of them.
Okay. So I'll let you say your other 2.
Ones?
Yeah.
Well, so one that I liked was Caroline when she says, "I can hear every word you're saying about Damon the vampire gigolo."
Okay, that's good. That is good.
One. And I had to give a shout out to Klaus leaning over to Cole. Isn't she stunning?
Oh, I love
about
that.
Caroline dissing him.
Yeah.
But of course, my winner was what I'm assuming you're going to say.
Esther yelling to the skies, "Sisters, do not abandon me."
It's my favorite one for some reason.
I just love all of the witch vibes, and Esther really obviously brings that in a lot.
Yeah, the strongest, because we've really only had Bonnie for the most part to this point, and of course she's such like a newbie and she's so alone. But sisters do not abandon me. That is the mantra I live by.
Yep. Yeah, same. I'm like, when I'm with my girls, I'm like, sisters, do not abandon me.
That's what we're gonna start saying in this podcast at some point to all of you.
Yeah.
Do not abandon us. But anyway, easy winner of best quote for Esther. Sisters
absolutely.
Do not abandon me. Another easy winner is the song of the episode. I had an honorable mention, but I have to imagine we have the same winner.
Yeah, I think so. I only had the one winner, and I think we have the same one. So I'll let you say your honorable mention.
I'll give a quick shout out then to Fire Escape by Civil Twilight.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was like, what?
Got her. No, I'm kidding.
You should get me. I was like, what is she talking about?
You were genuinely shocked. Okay,
but
just having a little fun with it.
You're crazy, so who knows? You just pick songs based on vibes only sometimes.
That is true. I definitely do.
And anyway, Fire Escape by Civil Twilight was when the originals were just sitting listening to music. Pretty much any song the originals are just casually sitting around listening to is automatic banger for me.
I did notice that song in it, and I like that too.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I think I've heard it in other contexts before, whether on just some of my playlists or something. I couldn't remember, but I really like that song. It felt like a good Vampire Diaries originals vibe, so it felt like it deserved a place on a playlist.
Yeah, I agree. I like that song. I noticed it when it came on. I thought it was good. But it didn't compare.
It didn't compare. There was like such an obvious winner. As soon as it plays, as soon as the episode starts, it starts playing and you're like, this is the winner. It's, of course, Poison and Wine by the Civil Wars, which is Elena calling Stefan and then calling Damon. Like we said at the top of the episode, like, it is just such a romantic, unrequited love kind of song.
Absolutely.
I love the Civil Wars. Like, this is one of my favorite albums.
And they already played the Civil Wars earlier this season. Yeah. It just feels, it just works so well.
Yeah, it just has to win.
Obvious choice.
Yeah, so we'll be adding Poison and Wine by the Civil Wars to our Best Song of the Episode playlist, where we have all of the winners for every episode to this point for Best Song. Mm-hmm. And we also have a Season 3 specific playlist with every winner of Best Song and every honorable mention, so you can get all the Season 3 vibes in that playlist. Both are linked in our various bios and descriptions, along with our social media, Instagram and TikTok. You can follow along, participate in the polls, watch the memes, look at the edits. I don't know. We do all sorts of stuff there, so check that out.
Yeah, and when you're done with the social medias, you can always listen to the episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch the video version on YouTube if you're not already doing that. And join us next week for Season 3, Episode 16, 1912. A flashback episode you already know.
Yeah, crazy one.
Yeah, we'll get back into it.
Yeah. Thanks for watching and or listening to this one.
Bye.